It is 1851 Franchise's job to bring you the stories that impact franchising the most. Today, we are joined by A&W Restaurants CEO Kevin Bazner to talk about their Why You, Why Now, next on 1851 Interviews. So, Kevin, why don't we start off? Let's start off with 2020. Some great things happened for the brand. Talk about what you're proud of, what your team was able to accomplish as we weathered probably the craziest storm that you saw in restaurants and franchising. But some of the things you were proud of as a CEO.
Well, the things we're most proud of 2020, you know, in the middle of March when COVID hit the fan, so to speak, we made a commitment to get all of our team members and all of our franchise partners to the best of our ability to the other side of this pandemic. And while we're not to the other side of this yet, that commitment did result in very successfully getting all of our, the majority of our stores open. We lost a handful of stores in mall locations. All of our team members, we kept everyone on the payroll, assuming that, not knowing when, but assuming that COVID would pass, the pandemic would pass. And fortunately for us is that we made that decision in March. By the end of April of last year, we saw business coming back. So it was the right choice. Wanted to keep things intact so that when things did pass and did get better, we would be able to hit the ground running. So particularly with new development. So we kept the team intact. Sales turned around very quickly after about 5 or 6 weeks. And now we're continuing to benefit from that. The other thing, and really with our franchise partners, Nick, that to get all our people to the other side, if you may, all of our franchise partners to the other side, we went for a period of 90 days where we either deferred or canceled royalty and advertising payments. And knowing in the crisis, when the crisis hit, that cash would be king, right? So we said, hold on to your cash. Don't send us in royalties. Don't send us in ad fund money. We'll figure it out afterwards once we see what happens here. So, and we actually, in the marketing money, we actually sent money back. Whatever an operator had on balance in their one-store advertising account, we actually sent them the money back. And knowing that cash would be king, the royalties and ads in itself was not going to save a location if it had to close and they had to continue to pay rent, but it would be helpful. And in fact, it was. So we literally ran the organization and ran the ad fund for a 90-day period with zero revenue last year. So that was our commitment to get, to help everybody get to the other side.
So I want to unpack something there, because one of the things that I find most attractive about the A&W franchise opportunity is the fact that it is franchisee operated. Not just at the local level, at a corporate standpoint, the brand was taken over by franchisees. And what I just heard out of your mouth there was that this was in corporate operations. This was taking care of our people, which I think, because you get to walk the day in the life of the shoes of a franchise owner, it's easier for you to understand what is right during a crisis like that.
No, you're absolutely right. When you say we're franchise owned, and what that is 9 years, going on 10 years ago in December of 2011, our U.S. Franchise Association got together with our largest international franchisee and acquired the business from Yum Brands. And their interest in acquiring the business was to protect their interest as franchisees. So with that as a backdrop, every decision we make is filtered through our franchise association. Every decision we make that impacts, that touches a store, is filtered through our franchise association. And that franchise association also has 2 seats on our main board of the company. in which strategic and policy decisions are made. So when we call our franchise partners, and we do, they're truly our partners. Through the association, every franchisee in the United States is a partner in the parent company through their franchise association. So it's truly a collaborative environment in the decisions we make that touch the stores. So that, to your point, last year when we were talking with our franchise association, we're talking with our shareholders about the pandemic and what did we need to do, everybody was on the same page because we were all in the same boat, right? It was right pocket, left pocket, right? You can send the royalty income into the company and take it away from the store, but ultimately if the store has to close because a franchise partner doesn't survive it, it affects both sides. So it is a much more collaborative process in which everyone's interests really are aligned. We've all got the same goal in mind, and that's to grow the business, strengthen the brand, and so that everyone can benefit from a financial standpoint.
Do you feel that gave you not the upward hand, because the reality is every restaurant brand is competing for similar customers, but internally, when you're faced with something that you've never seen as a leader before, that you're not taking guesses. The guesswork's taken out because the discussions very early on are all built around how can we best secure the business for the future and get through this thing with our franchise operators. Does having franchisees in the discussion give you an advantage that a lot of brands don't have?
Without question, without question, it does. And it didn't just start with the pandemic, right? That was our MO coming into the pandemic. So it was a natural thing for us to. All we did was we increased the frequency of those conversations. We didn't change the conversation. It was just we increased the frequency of them from weekly and quarterly to literally daily during the height of the pandemic. So. The basis for those conversations already existed, and yeah, I do think it was I do think it was and continues to be a competitive advantage of ours because all stakeholders' interests are exactly aligned.
Kevin, your own personal journey. Obviously, you've had two stints here in leadership as you've now come back into the organization. Does your excitement change because you got to see what else was out there in between, or how do you look at things currently, given that it's a unique approach to owning the CEO seat?
Yeah, it was interesting. Nick, when the brand was sold to Yum Brands, I had been around for about 18 years. The majority of that, 10 years of that, was focused on our international business. So during that 9-year absence, almost 10-year absence, I went off and did some other things, as you know. But through that 18 years, I established a lot of relationships and a lot of friendships with the A&W brand. And honestly, when I got the phone calls, and it was 2 different phone calls, one from the president of our franchise association and one from our largest franchise partner, when Yum was putting the business up for sale, they both called me and asked me if I would help them. And it was really a natural for me. I mean, my heart was still with the brand. The relationships were there. My only condition, if you may, my only request for that was they wanted me to help them do the acquisition, and then they wanted me to stay with the brand and run the brand as the CEO. My only request is that while Yum was selling the business in two pieces, domestic and international, as 2 separate components, that we keep the brand together, that we not allow that we basically buy both sides of the business, which in fact we were successful in doing.
So, I mean, there is part of the why now, in my opinion. I mean, you left for a while, probably because of the model that was being done. You weren't a fit when it had to be handed off, and you were a fit right back where you were when the team got reassembled. That if I'm trying to look at a brand and an opportunity, one, I'm always going to look at the leadership as step one. I need to understand what is the vision of the company to know that my investment's going to be protected if I'm willing to invest in the brand. And here, that's a hard argument on why I would pick you, because you're showing I'm back in. I was willing to come right back to the team when it was taken off the table with Yum Brand. So do you get a chance to reflect back on that? Do you see that as a positive for why you and why now?
Yeah, no, there's no question about it. And Nick, it just seemed to me after 9 years with Yum Brand and their strategy, which was, their strategy, listen, Yum, the people involved with Yum at the time, we sold them the business to the time that I got involved, different group that we bought the business back. We're very, very good to me. We're very good to us. But their strategy was different. I mean, they acquired the brand for their co-brand business, right? And really, secondary was the brand itself. And when we had an opportunity to acquire the business back, what I really saw was an opportunity to get this brand as a standalone brand again, right? With a passion, and we had the opportunity. I had the opportunity or the knowledge of the existing franchise community. I knew these people, right, and knew that given the opportunity to become an independent brand again and get out from underneath a large bureaucratic organization, very good organization, but the wrong fit for this brand. And so was excited, and I felt I was uniquely positioned, and still do believe that I was uniquely positioned with the knowledge I had and the ability to get some others that had been involved in the brand previously back re-engaged in the brand, that I felt very comfortable that we could get the brand back on the right track very, very quickly. And in fact, as you know, we did. We're in our 10th year of same-store sales increases, now 10 years in a row. And that was not by accident. When we took over the brand, when I came in as the CEO, we set one goal that I knew would take the brand, would stabilize the business, would strengthen the brand, which was basically to strengthen the individual stores, was to focus on profitable same-store sales growth, with the emphasis on profitable. Not, we don't have a dollar menu. We're not heavily discounting. We can't compete with those that have a stronger voice than we do, that have a larger voice because of their scale. Where we can compete is on the local level, and quality became our long-term value proposition, and it has been for now in our 10th year, and I believe it's paying the most dividends last year and this year, as we got back some lapsed users and we saw some new customers. We're still seeing them. They see that we're not getting them because we're discounting. We're getting them because of the brand, the brand in people's mindset. During crisis, social scientists will tell you is that people will gravitate to the brands they know, right? And A&W is one of those brands. And so we saw a lot of those customers coming back or coming to us for the first time last year, and they saw the work that we've been doing on our quality initiatives. And you know what? They're still coming back. And the good news is, going forward, is that these same social scientists will say that these consumers will gravitate towards the brands, the legacy brands, if that they grew up with. They'll gravitate to them towards crisis because everybody's looking for a comfort zone, right? And that the longer that the crisis continues, the longer residual effect that the brands will have post-crisis. So now here we are in year 2, right, of the crisis, and it still goes on, and that's unfortunate. But from a brand perspective, we are seeing it. We're seeing it in our comps. We're seeing it double-digit comps now for basically the last 12 months, coming out of COVID to this day, and it's actually gotten stronger in the first quarter of this year than it was at any time during this crisis.
If I met you at a business cocktail reception, I said, look, I have a brand with leadership intact, franchisee buy-in because they're part of the brand, unit level economics that is focused on profitability for the franchise owner, nationwide brand awareness and opportunity to grow because we still have plenty of prime territories for growth. You would say, tell me what the brand is. So do you feel like, unfortunately, is this the best kept business secret? Because you have all the ingredients that should make anybody that's thinking about multi-unit operations, or I'm diversifying my brand portfolio to include brand X. It seems like you have all those pieces. Has it been, we just haven't got the story to the right people, or what frustrates you about knowing that you have all that and connecting that to future growth?
Well, I think a couple of things is, one is the story is we haven't told it, or at least it hasn't been heard. Okay, now to be fair, in the 9+ years of ownership, the first 4 or 5 years that we owned the business, we weren't even focused on new development. We were focused on improving the unit economics of the business that we had. We knew that ultimately you're going to get people interested in the business, that you had to have strong unit economics. So that was first. That was the whole same store, profitable same store sales growth. And as that began to stack year after year, then we began to focus on attracting new buyers and new franchise partners. And I think that the story has continued to strengthen. And to be honest, in the first 5, 6, 7 years, while our economics were improving, we weren't quite yet to where we needed to be an interesting and an exciting idea. We are now, and particularly after last year and coming into this year, we are a very, very competitive story in terms of the unit economics, right? So now I think it's just getting the story out. And I think some of our history, some of the co-branding under previous ownership that is still, part of our system, is a bit of a detriment to our new development as we are going forward, because a lot of prospects see that, and that's not what they want to do. And really, our story is the singular brand, the core business, the base brand is what we call it. So I think just getting more of the story out there as that short. I mean, we made a huge increases in our unit economics just in the last 15 months alone.
Yeah, I mean, and that goes back to the support of franchisees. If you go back to goal 1 being let's increase profitability, the reality is you're taking care of your house, which then in turn should open up more people saying, well, how do I join that club? Let me in, No,
that's right. That's exactly right. Is taking care of that, taking care of unit profitability, with that mindset of growing profitable same store sales with quality as our value initiative, right? And from day, that people aren't looking to us. They're not coming to us because we got the lowest price deal in town. But that's part of the penny profit, right? It's still a penny profit business, right?
So Kevin, if you think of the onboarding process of a new buyer coming into A&W today, do you feel like is it a club that you have to break into? Are you being more critical of who gets let in because you're also protecting all these franchisees who are owners in the brand?
Well, I wouldn't say we're not inclusive. We're very inclusive, and really one of our goals is to become more diverse, to attract a larger variety of people. But want people that are interested in the brand and the integrity of the brand, not just looking for the investment and are going to be hands-on owner. We're really looking for franchise partners, new franchise partners that want to invest in the brand, right? And work with us in protecting the integrity of the brand for the long term, which by definition protects everyone, right? And so, not being exclusive, but really we really want higher quality, if you may, versus quantity. We're really looking for quality versus quantity in terms of our franchise partners. We've got a very good thing here, as we've talked about, and it's getting better. Literally, it's getting better every single day, and we do want to protect that for the long term for all stakeholders, right?
there's a brand like Five Guys, for instance, that the perception in the mid to early 2000s so far was that this was a overnight success story, that it popped out of nowhere. And the reality is the Five Guys story starts in the early 80s, and they had to trek through to get to this point. The word that you don't hear said with Five Guys is nostalgic. And it's almost like nostalgia gets added to the A&W story, but the reality is it's still just a really good product with strong unit level economics. So two-part question. One, how do you feel about nostalgia when someone comes and tells you their A&W story? Are you appreciative of that? And secondly, because there's a good business opportunity here that happens to be built around great product, you see a younger franchise owner starting to pop their head up and say, this is the brand I want to invest in, that it's not even really a legacy brand. It's a new opportunity.
Yeah, that's two great questions, or a great two-part question. As far as as far as the nostalgia, if you may, it's really, from us, it's really heritage. When we took over the brand, we put our brand strategy together 9 years ago. When we took over the brand, we really were looking at reaching into our own past and bringing it forward, right? Those memories, and everyone's got them, right? And through previous ownership, we got to a point where we almost lost a generation of consumers that only were knowing the brand through co-brand with other brands as opposed to a standalone brand. So we reached into our past, and so well some would say nostalgic. With us, it's heritage. It was really bringing that stuff, some of those things forward, not only in the imagery and the memories, of course. We wanted to play on that, but even product. So, for example, one of our first quality initiatives was bringing back making fresh made root beer in every store every day. When we acquired the business, the majority of the system was in a bag in the box product, served with through the same post mix machine as the Coke or the Pepsi product. Not that those are bad products, not at all. But it became a Me Too product, and the consumer told us that. So we reached into our past and we said, listen, this made fresh root beer served in a draft environment on its own. We were the original, in the day of craft beverages, right? We're the original craft beverage, right? And so we brought that back. So was it nostalgic? No, that was part of our heritage that we brought forward, and that was the beginning of the quality initiatives we put in place. That our consumers recognize us for, even though they might have been lapsed or hadn't seen us in a while, or we didn't have a location nearby them. As far as today, what we are seeing is a much younger franchise prospect than ever. We're seeing a younger generation. So I think that quality initiatives and reaching into our own heritage and bringing it forward, that category of franchise prospects knew the brand. They grew up with the brand. They tell us the stories, right? They tell us the stories of going with their grandparents in many cases, right, to the A&W. They just thought that A&W was gone, right? So it's back to that, telling that story again. And with our existing growth, about half of our new growth is from existing franchise partners. Half is new franchise partners joining the system. Most of those franchise partners that are growing today are the newer, younger people that we brought into the system over the last 5 years. And that gets back to the unit economics, right? I did my stint, as many in my position have over the years, in a consulting role, right? And I got hired by several different companies over time to help them understand what it would take to get existing franchisees to build more restaurants. And the answer is always the same, and that's help them make more money, right? Mm-hmm. They'll build the first one. They might do a 10-store deal or a 5-store deal or whatever. And if they're not making any money, they don't build the second, third, and fourth store. So it's really easy. Now, I would never tell anybody that answer on the front end, because then I wouldn't get the job. That was too easy. But it was really, improve the unit economics, help them make money, and they'll build more stores.
Right, and all the backstory behind how you go about doing it ends up being the ingredients for why someone ends up buying into the brand.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, I do think as you're telling this positioning of why A&W and why now, I think a McDonald's, one of the mistakes they made, and there's certainly heritage in a McDonald's, but they lost. They fell out of touch with the owner operator, and you almost hear that in what you just said, is that I thought A&W was gone, or I didn't know it was a franchise opportunity. And the reality is you're full of these amazing owner operators who probably haven't been put front and center to tell why they're successful too. And I see that as tremendous opportunity as you start piecing together these stories for this year and beyond.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's just our story. We have an incredible story. It's certainly the 102 years of our heritage, of our history, but just over these 9, now into 10 years, we've grown average unit volumes by over 50%. Who in the industry can say that?
Right, exactly. And that's where there's a quiet story here that hasn't been heard yet, that when you unleash it, we'll see what happens. So 2 final things. One is, both of them are very short questions. Question 1 is, do you ever get to pinch yourself? Do you get to take a breath and say, wow, we've accomplished a lot?
No, not really, because we've got so much more. We've got so much more to do. We are in a position now, organizationally, resources we have to accelerate new growth. And for me, that is the commitment I made to the ownership when we acquired this business. We've really accomplished everything except for this replicable new store growth as we move into the future, and that's the one last piece. So until we get there, and we are on the cusp, I would suggest that the one headwind, the one big negative for the brand, and it's not just us, but just the impact that COVID has had on our new development. We basically, everything stopped for 6 months, right? You couldn't get a permit, you couldn't get bank financing, and that has started to open up again, but it's still slow. It's still moving slow. So I'm not going to pinch myself, or I'm not going to take a breather, if you may, until we're back on that track, and we're there. The pipeline is there, and it's getting stronger. We need some help with the overall economy to get stuff coming out of the ground. You've got high demand. You got demand that's out stripping supply, if you may, right today, and sort of getting things moving again. That'll balance itself out, and I think we're very well positioned to take advantage of that.
Final question, in a sentence or two: why you? Why now? Why should someone look at A&W, and why should they look at it now?
I think why now is what I said earlier relative to this heritage brand, if you may, this comfort brand, and it's real. Our results last year in COVID, and now in the second year of COVID, and really, I'd say coming out of COVID with vaccinations and that, we've had our strongest results, with the exception of March and April, where everything sort of stopped. We've had our strongest results, and we've seen new customers. We're seeing lapsed users that are continuing, that are coming back because they like what they see when they have come back to the brand. So that's the why A&W and why now, and the why A&W is the focus, and why this brand as well is our focus on unit economics, our focus on same store sales increases that are profitable, not just transactions. By the way, our transactions are up, but it's also profitable transactions. And I think some of our competitors, some of our major competitors, with costs going up, raw ingredients going up, labor going up, labor supply is tight. Everybody knows that. If your message has been value, and that's where you've brought the brand is on a price
Yeah.
is your value, you're going to struggle a lot more. And that's where we've said for 9 years is that quality is a long-term defensible value proposition. And I think that's where we're at today.
Well, and I would say under the umbrella of franchisee focus, and that's where a lot of brands lose some of their attention, because everything you just said, it is completely profitability, but it's franchisee focused, franchisee centric, and that's something that, you know, brands won't have unless a franchisee does a takeover. You have an asset there, so.
Yeah, and you know, and you're right, and I guess I take it for granted because we're every day. Just before this call, I was on a weekly call with our franchise association, and just talking about some more quality initiatives. And so we're engaged with our franchise partners all the time. There's 2 filters we go through: quality and our franchise association. Those are the 2 filters we go through with every single decision we make every single day.
It's wonderful. I for one am very excited for this. I'm excited to see what we can do with the story. I think the category of fans of the brand are so large that I think we just need to connect the dots of what is the business opportunity. Maybe adjust a little bit of the way that we're selling the story. And I see plenty of lift here. So I'm grateful to be able to work with you guys.
Well, we appreciate it, and that's what we're looking forward to is again, I think it is the story. I think we've been telling the story. I think it needs to be updated to your point, and we've got, again, just in the last 15, 16 months, the story has just accelerated, and we haven't changed anything. Our brand strategy, that's what probably the most encouraging to me is the brand strategy hasn't changed because it's been working. And what we've seen the last 15 months is that it's working that much better. It's accelerating. And that's what gets me excited every single day. So get the story out there, my friend.
I do have a feeling you're even when you hit whatever mark happens next, you're still gonna say, not ready to pinch myself. We got work to do.
Yeah, you've been talking to my wife, but there you go.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the time. Look forward to
Appreciate it, Nick. Anything you need, just give me let me know.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. See ya.
All right. Appreciate it.